At my sister's wedding, I refused to stand next to her husband. Later that night, she caught him whispering my name. I am a 32-year-old man, and I refuse to stand next to my sister's husband at the altar. Not a quiet refusal either, the kind that makes chairs scrape and the violinist falter mid-note. My mother's face turned the color of the tablecloths. My sister, Lily, kept smiling the way brides do when a bee lands on the cake and everyone is pretending it's part of the design. I said I would sit in the last row. I said I wouldn't make a speech. I said I would not stand beside Daniel. I didn't explain why. I thought protecting her day meant swallowing the reason. I was wrong. The reason had started 4 months earlier at the engagement dinner, in a corner of my parents' living room where framed school photos become a timeline of bad haircuts. Daniel boxed me in with that soft, manager tone he uses when he's about to drop something heavy and call it feedback. He said Lily got anxious when I was around too much. He said I took up oxygen. He said the best gift I could give them was space. It landed as a request and smelled like a threat. I shrugged it off and brought out dessert to keep the night from curdling. 2 weeks later the first message arrived from an unknown number using my childhood nickname, one only family still uses. It said I needed to back off the maid of honor planning, that I was making Lily's friends uncomfortable, that I should let Daniel handle the logistics. There was a photo attached, a screenshot of a text thread that looked like I'd written it. It showed me supposedly telling Lily I'd handle the guest list because no one else is competent. The font and blue bubbles were perfect. The problem is I hadn't written any of it. My phone showed no such thread. When I confronted Lily about the screenshot, she said she'd take things one task at a time, and that I should trust Daniel. The exact phrasing matched his email signatures. I started a folder called Record on my laptop that night. Dates. Times. Screenshots. Because if you don't keep paper, someone will write your story in pencil. The next hit came through my bank. An alert about a SIM swap request on my number, declined because I have a paranoid streak and lock everything. The note listed the store location. I went there the next day and watched Daniel through a window, smiling at a clerk, gesturing like this was about a billing issue. I took a photo of the timestamp and left before he could see me. I told myself there had to be another explanation. The mind prefers coincidence to malice, it costs less upfront. In April, the bachelor weekend planning thread went strange. The best man forwarded my late-night voicemails, slurred, pushy, supposedly demanding we cancel the trip because I had new intel about Daniel and people needed to pick sides. I don't drink. The timestamps matched nights I'd been on late deployments for a client, logged by VPN records and Slack activity. When I showed the best man those logs, he said tech stuff makes his eyes cross and that it would be healthier if I let things slide. It is wild how quickly the burden of proof lands on you once someone else labels you the storm. I tried to warn Lily without turning her wedding into a crime scene briefing. I told her someone was spoofing me. I told her she might see messages that weren't mine. She said stress makes people see patterns. She said Daniel had been so patient with my protective streak. She said she didn't want to spend her engagement defending her fiancé from her brother. The conversation ended with her voice even and mine raw. I put the call summary in record, because the truth is slippery when you rerun it alone at 2 a.m. Packages started turning up addressed to me at Daniel's apartment. A tie clip engraved with my initials. A pocket square. A note, for the big day, stand proudly. The handwriting was a careful, genderless neat. Then came a printed reservation confirmation sent to my work email, a suite downtown under my full name, check-in the night before the wedding, charged to a prepaid card. Welcome, Mr. Carter. Discretion guaranteed. I forwarded it to myself and filed a fraud report. When I asked Daniel casually how their hotel block was looking, he grinned and said every loose end would be handled. I heard what he wanted Lily to hear, competent. I heard what he wanted me to hear, compliant. The rehearsal dinner felt like the last normal night. The toast jokes about Lily's college phase. My father telling everyone to sit down before the food got cold. Daniel's friends slapping backs like they just negotiated peace. Daniel raised a glass and thanked our families for trusting us to do this our way. He made eye contact with me and held it one beat too long. When he hugged me goodnight, his breath brushed my ear with a private sentence, "Don't try anything tomorrow. She deserves a perfect day." That line only makes sense if you think I was planning something. I wasn't. But he was. The morning of brought the final nudge. A group text to the bridal party from an unknown number pretending to be me, heads up, speech at the end with some family news, keep phones ready. Screenshots started flying. My mother texted me 3 question marks. Lily texted me a single, brittle, "No, I drove to the venue anyway." I walked in with the tie in my pocket and record in my bag and the kind of nausea you get when a plane drops 5 feet fast. The coordinator tried to place me at the front with the groomsmen. I said I'd pass. The room shifted like a rowboat. Daniel arrived late, tan, cologne heavy, the kind of groom who tries on leader. He asked the coordinator to give us a minute. He smiled at me the way salesmen smile at people whose credit score they've already run. He said I seemed unstable. He said he wouldn't let me hijack the ceremony. He said there was still time to choose love. It was almost funny how he could make a boundary sound like a tantrum. I repeated a sentence I'd practiced in the car, "I will not stand by you." He called me dramatic. I called him dangerous. He shrugged and went to adjust his cufflinks. So I sat. First row empty beside my mother. Second row with my father's cousin who always brings his own mints. Third row a woman I didn't know crying already. The ceremony slid past me like I was watching behind glass. When the officiant said, "If anyone knows just cause," a few heads turned my way on reflex. I laughed without sound. The vows happened. The kiss happened. I clapped and felt nothing. The photos happened. In family shots I stood 2 people away from Daniel, the gap like a warning stripe. During the cocktail hour, my phone buzzed with a new unknown number, "Still time to fix your behavior. I left a gift in your suite." There was a photo of a key card with the hotel logo. I ignored it. When the first dance started, I sat with my mother and pointed out the things my sister had obsessed over: linen color exactly a shade called bone, the string lights not too warm, the cake topper of a tiny bicycle because of their first trip together. My mother squeezed my hand like her bones were talking to mine. Dinner came with toasts. The best man told a story about Daniel rescuing Lily's suitcase in Barcelona. Our aunt talked about Lily sewing buttons on our father's shirts after he got sick. Then Daniel took the mic and thanked Lily for choosing him over noise. The word noise rolled over the tables like a small insult. People laughed the laugh of wanting to be on the winner's side. I put my hand under the table and pressed the heel of my palm into my thigh until the impulse to stand up and set fire to the centerpieces passed. Much later, after the sparkler send-off and the part where the DJ plays the song everyone pretends to hate, Lily found Daniel outside by the service entrance. She told me afterward she had followed the sound of his voice. He was whispering my name, slowly, like tasting it. Then an entire sentence under his breath that made her stop where the asphalt meets the grass: "He ruins things without opening his mouth." She said he was facing the brick, one hand flat on it, the way people ground themselves when they're dizzy. She said her first thought was that he was practicing lines for a fight. Her second was that he was in love with the enemy he had invented. She didn't confront him there. She came looking for me instead. I was in the hallway finishing the last of a bottle of water like it might have answers at the bottom. She handed me my phone. On it was a voice memo, her quick, shaky whisper telling me what she'd heard, then the sound of Daniel's voice, my name again, softer, followed by his phone vibrating and him muttering a reply to a message. She had pressed record through her clutch by instinct. I asked if she was safe. She said she didn't know what safe meant if someone had been saying your brother's name in the dark at your wedding. We left the building through the kitchen so no one would see. In the parking lot her hands shook the way mine had in April when the SIM swap alert hit. We sat in my car and compared notes like coworkers after a breach. I told her about the spoofed messages and the prepaid hotel. She told me about the way Daniel had started describing me to her the last 2 months, words like controlling and resentful, as if he needed her to choose a villain early. I opened record and gave her my bad archive. She scrolled in silence and then asked for a copy. I airdropped it and watched it land on her screen like a verdict with a timestamp. Back inside, the party kept going, other people's joy loud and innocent. Lily went to get her bag and I went looking for fresh air. Daniel found me first. He leaned in close and told me I'd done enough. He said Lily needed someone who puts her first. He said he hoped I had my documents in order, because grown-ups solve things on paper. Then he patted my arm. He thanked me for, finally taking a step back. I stared at the spot on the wall where the light bounced and wondered if I'd ever again like rooms with chandeliers. At 2 a.m. Lily texted me from a different number, a photo of a small black notebook she had found in Daniel's garment bag. My name on the first page. Dates under it. Bulleted phrases: drinks, pushy, mom, rescue, sim, almost, record, he keeps one. The last line: make him step down publicly. She added a single sentence: I don't know who I married. I didn't sleep. I backed up record to 3 places. I wrote a timeline with verbs only. I emailed myself the voice memo. I wrote Lily a list of immediate steps: change passcodes, call her bank, check for any insurance changes, ask the hotel for a log of keycard entries. At dawn, I sat on my mother's porch with coffee I couldn't taste and the blue, ridiculous sky pretending any of this was normal. The birds did their happy ignorance. My neighbor waved like this was any Sunday. By 8, Lily replied. The hotel log showed someone had tried our shared family name on a check-in desk conversation and then flashed the prepaid card when the clerk asked for ID. The clerk had made a note: guest demanded discretion. Lily also found an unsigned draft letter in Daniel's email, the exact speech I'd been accused of planning, full of family truths about boundaries and choosing myself, stamped with my name at the bottom. All it needed was a printing and a bad decision. He hadn't needed me to speak. He just needed a piece of paper to wave. By noon Lily was at my mother's kitchen table, veil off, circles under her eyes like bruises. She said Daniel was sleeping it off. She said she had his phone backed up to her laptop. She said there were apps he'd hidden in a folder called Tools. Caller ID spoofers. Number masking. A deleted note with the phrase, optics for investors, a phrase no one uses unless they care about how things look more than what they are. She said she had found emails to a trust attorney about streamlining family assets post-ceremony. She said the phrase family assets like it had a bad taste. We sat in the quiet while the kettle boiled and the cat thumped down the hallway like a small, annoyed judge. I told her I'd refuse to stand by him because my body couldn't make a lie that big in front of our entire family. She said not standing saved the night. If I had given him a clean photo, he would have made it the proof. She looked at her ring and said a small, practical sentence I will never forget: I need to know what I can undo. She asked me to come with her to Daniel's place to pick up overnight things. She didn't want to go alone. We walked in together. He was awake on the couch, eyes bloodshot, smile preloaded. He thanked me for not making it worse. He told Lily they shouldn't over-index on last night. He told us both that family systems don't like change and that we could still be adults. Lily's mouth tightened. She asked for her bag. He said it was in the bedroom. As she walked down the hall he added, with his eyes on me, that I owed him restraint. I said I owed him nothing. He called that line a threat. I recorded the next 10 minutes in my head like I'd have to repeat them under oath. Lily came out with the bag and the black notebook and one more thing, a portable hard drive labeled Q2. She slid it into her purse. Daniel didn't notice. He was busy telling me he knew how courts see men like you. Men like what? I wanted to ask. Men with receipts? We stepped into the elevator and Lily said the Q2 drive had backups of Daniel's business. She wasn't trying to steal. She was trying to see who wrote those optics emails and whether her name showed up anywhere under leverage. At the bottom of the purse, her phone vibrated with a single message from an unknown number: "Congrats on the perfect day." Attached was a photo of the back entrance brick wall. You could see Daniel's hand on it. You could see a smudge where his forehead had been. We drove away with more questions than hours. The one thing that had changed was this: I wasn't the only person hearing my name said like a problem. Lily had heard it too. And she was done pretending that was love. We didn't go to a friend. We didn't check into a hotel. We went to an office building with carpet that eats sound and a lawyer whose profile photo looks like a receipt. His name is Paul. He said words like preserve, notice, protective order, digital forensics. He told Lily to mirror the Q2 drive before even looking at it. He told me to write my timeline in verbs and nouns, no adjectives. He told my mother, on speaker, to change the alarm code at her house because people escalate when paper corners them. We mirrored the drive at a computer shop that opens on Sundays for cash. We carried the copy like it was radioactive. Back at Paul's, he clicked through folder names that meant nothing to me until one did: brand frameworks, family. Inside sat a deck for Daniel's startup, the one he'd pitched to everyone as behavior tech for better relationships. Slide 23, Narrative Risk Mitigation. Bullet points about controlling third-party voices, isolation of dissenters, proactive content, and optics in the event of familial resistance. 2 case studies. One had Lily's initials and mine. Under mine, high-competence sibling, risk, credibility, plan, reframe as controlling/unstable, tools, therapist notes, group texts, staged speech draft, outcome, reduced influence. The floor slid a half-inch in my head. Lily stared at the screen and then at her lap. Paul took a photo of the slide on his phone and told us to breathe. He said he'd seen stranger things in shareholder disputes. He said proximity makes this feel like love gone wrong. It's not. It's a playbook. The next folder held emails with the trust lawyer and a venture fund. Daniel pitched his product with language that borrowed our last name as an origin story. I've seen firsthand how a family can be optimized. He used the word optimized about people I love. He had attached a timeline of interventions he had supposedly led with Lily to reduce dependency on sibling. He wrote that the wedding would be the final pivot. I watched Lily's face as she read. That is the worst part, seeing the person you would have died for realize someone choreographed them. Paul drafted 2 letters fast. One to Daniel's counsel: preserve everything, cease any contact with me that wasn't through him, return any property that wasn't Daniel's, no more communications about family assets. The second to the venture fund: we are aware of misrepresentations, retain all pitch materials and communications, further use of our names would be actionable. He CC'd the trust lawyer for good measure. He told Lily to go to her bank and change everything she could change. He told me to file an identity theft report for the SIM attempt and the hotel. He told my mother to document every phone call. While Paul printed, my phone buzzed. A message from Daniel: let's de-escalate. Lily's tired. You're embarrassing her. Another from an unknown number: the draft of the speech, again, now attached as a PDF titled Boundary. He wanted it to exist on my phone. He wanted metadata. I didn't reply. Paul put both messages in a folder called Evidence and named it with the second-level precision of someone who expects depositions. At 3, Lily asked for a break. The office kitchen smelled like old coffee and lemon soap. My mother arrived with containers of soup because that's what she knows how to do when the world fails to behave. We ate standing up. We made a list on a legal pad of what happens next. Lily drew a box around the sentence, "I need to end this marriage," then circled the words, "with a plan." Paul nodded like a coach who prefers free throws to buzzer beaters. The first attempt at confrontation had to be controlled. We scheduled a meeting at Paul's office for the next morning and invited Daniel and his counsel. That night, Lily slept at our mother's. I slept on the couch and woke every hour to the refrigerator cycling like a patient machine. Around 2 I checked Lily's shared location out of habit. Her phone showed home. Daniel showed nothing, he had turned it off or set it to lie. At 4, Lily texted a photo, her wedding dress folded over a chair like an exhausted person. Under it, the black notebook. Morning. Daniel arrived looking like a man who spent the night practicing sincerity. His lawyer wore the expression of someone paid to make the worst facts sound procedural. Paul had the Q2 slide printed and highlighted. He began with the cease contacts and the preservation demand. Daniel said there'd been misunderstanding. He said the slide was ideation. He said the case studies were hypotheticals. He said he had used our names as stand-ins. He said he was sorry if the deck caused distress. Lily asked why my name sat beside a plan to isolate me. He said I had been disruptive and he'd been seeking balance. Paul asked who tried the SIM swap. Daniel said he had no idea and looked at his lawyer. The lawyer asked for a recess. The room smelled like toner and expensive cologne and the metal taste of lies. We came back from the hall to find Daniel holding the black notebook like a prop. He said he keeps observations because he is data-driven. He said any language of control in the deck came from his product work, not his heart. He said, "You both know I love you." Lily placed the voice memo on the table, the one of him whispering my name. She pressed play. The room heard it. The sound of a man rehearsing resentment. He said he'd been praying for me. Paul didn't smile. He asked Daniel to explain why the venture fund had an email from him referencing reducing dependency on sibling influence pre-close. Daniel said the context was missed in a screenshot. Paul slid the laptop across the table and opened the full thread. Daniel's lawyer put a hand on his shoulder, a subtle pressure that read, "Stop talking." Then the wild card arrived because life rarely respects schedules. A woman walked into the conference room holding a paper folder in both hands. She introduced herself as Julia. She had dated Daniel 5 years ago. She said she'd heard about the wedding through mutuals and had tried to convince herself not to get involved. Then she'd seen a soft launch post in which Daniel thanked Lily for choosing peace over noise. She recognized the language. She had kept things too. Printed screenshots of Daniel telling her brother to give them space, draft emails to her parents framing her brother as controlling, a bullet list for isolating third-party influence. Same playbook, older fonts. She'd left him 3 months before her own planned wedding after her brother found the drafts. She said she wasn't there to be heroic. She was there because patterns don't become X's, they become forecasts. Paul took the folder the way you take a baby, careful, grateful, shocked anyone trusted you with it. Daniel's lawyer said this was not the proper forum for new allegations. Paul said it wasn't an allegation, it was context. Lily thanked Julia with her eyes wet and her jaw set. Daniel said we were ganging up. He said he loved Lily. He said the business didn't matter. He said I had always wanted center stage. He said I was loving this. The last line gave the room a small sharp silence. It is hard to look at a person who has studied you and still thinks you will be flattered by the wrong accusation. Paul ended the meeting with a list. Daniel would vacate the apartment for 72 hours while Lily removed her belongings, per a written agreement. All communications would go through counsel. The storage unit would be inventoried by a neutral. The venture fund would receive formal notice of potential fraud. Lily would file for annulment or divorce based on misrepresentation as counsel advised. If Daniel violated the standstill, Paul would seek a protective order. Daniel's lawyer signed the interim memo. Daniel signed. His hands shook. Leaving the building, Lily stopped on the sidewalk and put both palms on her thighs like someone finishing a race. She said she had to tell our father's grave. She said she had to tell our aunt. She said she didn't want anyone to use the word brave. She said she felt stupid. I said feeling stupid is what trusting people sometimes costs. She nodded like that was the only sentence we could afford. The next week was a blur of boring mercies. Locks changed. A locksmith hummed a tune my grandfather used to hum. The storage inventory revealed everything we feared and a few things we hadn't thought of, a copy of my driver's license I hadn't lost, a prepaid phone, and a printed letter template titled, "To Family," ready to be filled with names. No signature. Just blank spaces. We documented and handed it all to Paul. He built a binder that made mine look like a child's scrapbook. Word traveled the way bad weather does, fast and with extra thunder. Some relatives went quiet. A few texted me 3-paragraph explanations of why they had believed Daniel's version. One wrote, "He just sounded so measured." Measured is the favorite word of people who don't want to admit they chose confident over true. I stopped trying to win anyone. The binder was enough. Lily blocked people she needed to block. She took off her ring and put it in a small dish and didn't look at it again. She slept on our mother's couch for a while because bed was too much. Daniel did not go quietly. He posted a photo of a sunrise with a caption about releasing what doesn't serve. He sent Paul a letter accusing me of inciting estrangement. He had a friend call my employer with concerns about my stability. HR called me in, uncomfortable, and then relieved when I produced a timeline, contacts for Paul, and a packet a third as thick as the courts. The friend stopped calling. At the first court date, the judge asked simple questions. Did Lily consent to a marriage built on honest representations? Did Daniel use third-party tools to manipulate how others saw Lily's brother? Was there an attempt to move family property under the guise of streamlining after the ceremony? Paul produced the slide, the SIM report, the storage photos, the voice memo. Daniel's counsel argued context. The judge issued a temporary order: no contact with me, no manipulation of Lily's financial life, no access to the storage unit without the neutral. She set a hearing on annulment grounds and encouraged settlement. Her eyes were kind in the exact way that doesn't mean mercy, it means order. The hearing for annulment took place in a room that smells like overworked air conditioning and paper. Lily testified, voice steady like she'd practiced every night in the bathroom mirror. Daniel spoke about love as a verb and men who feel threatened. Paul read the slide titles without commentary. The judge didn't need theatrics. She needed nouns. She found misrepresentation sufficient to void what had been celebrated. It's a sterile phrase that carries a whole house move inside it. The aftermath didn't look like triumph. It looked like returns and boxes and a florist discounting lilies because no one wants them that week. It looked like our mother tracing recipes on index cards because writing steadies her hands. It looked like me replacing my phone number finally, after months of refusing to let a stranger force me off it. It looked like Lily getting a new email address that nobody but 3 people and her lawyer know. It looked like me finding that prepaid key card under my car seat months later and dropping it in a drawer, not as a trophy, but as a warning. People keep asking if Daniel ever explained the night he whispered my name against a brick wall. He didn't. He tried to fold it into the language of prayer and stress and the noise of big days. My honest guess is simpler and uglier. He needed a villain he could carry like a tool. He rehearsed me. He practiced lines to win rooms I thought were safe. He tried to turn my refusal to stand into proof I was unstable. Instead, it was the first boundary anyone in the story could see. My sister hasn't forgiven me for everything. Not because I did harm, but because I didn't speak sooner, because I let protect her day outrank protect her life. She's right in a way that will ache for a long time. When we talk about the wedding now, rarely, softly, she says the moment the officiant asked if anyone knew a reason and the room tilted toward me, she wished I'd stood up. I tell her I thought silence was kindness. We both know how that turned out. I returned the tie clip engraved with my initials to the store. The clerk didn't ask why. He processed the return and handed me a receipt that said, "Refund, merchandise credit." I laughed later at the phrase. There's no merchandise credit for a year like that. There's just inventory and prevention and the slow work of not letting someone else's voice become the museum audio guide for your family. The binder sits on a shelf in Paul's office now, closed, heavy, labeled with our last name and a number. Record still lives on my laptop, but I don't open it. I keep it the way you keep a fire extinguisher. Lily lives in a small place near a park. She runs at dusk and drinks tea like it's a job. Our mother insists we come for Sunday dinner even if we eat in silence. The piano sounds the same as it did before any of this, which feels like a mercy I didn't earn. At my sister's wedding, I refused to stand next to her husband. Later that night, she caught him whispering my name. People will decide the story they like best: jealous brother, overprotective, dramatic, or the one we handed the judge: notes, tools, slides, timestamps. I don't need to argue anymore. I have my name back in my own mouth. I have a sister who looks at me and sees me, not the outline a man drew to sell a product and a life. When I pass brick walls now, I don't think of him practicing. I think of Lily pressing record through her clutch, the quiet choice that changed everything, and I keep walking, not toward a spotlight, not away from smoke, just forward, where papers are boring and hands don't shake when they let go.
Follow me for more stories.